Hello and welcome to Kenya's Unheard Truth. My name is Eric Latif. In 2009, the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission was formed. Its main mandate was to look at what ails Kenya. Now, over the last 1 year, they've been traversing the country, listening to the truth, hearing what you have to say. They've been coming to your villages, your estates, all over the country. In the last 1 week, since the 2nd of February, the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission was in Nairobi holding thematic hearings, out of which there are various issues that have come across and they need to be discussed. One of them is ethnic conflict. That's what we're going to discuss today. Welcome.
Nothing raises as much fear and apprehension in Kenya as the spectre of fresh ethnic violence. For the past decades, the wave of inter-ethnic conflicts in the Rift Valley, Nyanza, Western and some parts of the coastal provinces have rocked the country most prior to and after the 2007-2008 presidential elections. In regard to ethnic conflict, the TJR Act provides that one of the Commission's functions is to inquire into the causes of ethnic tensions and make recommendations on the promotion of healing, reconciliation, and coexistence among ethnic communities.
Over the last few decades, especially after the introduction of multi-party politics, Kenya has witnessed a spate of what has come to be described as ethnic clashes. The Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission, which was established in the aftermath of the 2007-2008 post-election violence, was created to inter alia inquire into the causes of ethnic tensions and make recommendations on the promotion of healing, reconciliation, and coexistence among ethnic communities.
Whether on grounds such as access to economic opportunities, cattle rustling, distribution of land, or political patronage and tribalism, or simply on prejudicial beliefs and stereotypes, ethnicity has become an instrument of division.
The epicenter of conflict in Kenya is Rift Valley. And it is between the Kalenjins and the Kikuyu. And it is not about jobs, it is not about, no, it is about land.
TJRC recognizes the impacts and consequences that ethnic tensions had and continues to have upon the Kenyan people and seeks to give special attention to this aspect.
Well, now joining me in the studio this evening is retired Major General Ahmed Farah, who's a commissioner with the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission. I'm also joined by Alice Nerito, a commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. That's a very long name for the commission, but you guys have been doing a very good job. And also is Ambassador Barhanu Dinka, a commissioner with TJRC from Ethiopia. Welcome, and let's start with you, Ambassador Dinka. I mean, we've just seen in that clip we've just saw, your main mandate as regards ethnic conflict was, number one, to identify the causes and make recommendations. You've been hearing the people across the country. What are the main causes of ethnic conflict in Kenya?
We have been to almost all the counties of this country, talked to people, different levels of society, and they all have their problems. And the causes, one is more important than the other to different communities. But it's not a single factor that causes these tensions. It's a series of problems, starting from land, resources, like even grazing, cattle rustling, as we have just heard, a number of other things like nepotism, bad governance, the absence or the low application of rule of law.
Right.
These are the kind of things that have been building the tensions. And these tensions are felt by different communities differently. And then they have their own perception why it's happening to them, different perceptions. The perception may be right or wrong, but the issue is that they have that perception.
There's a perception that actually makes people start feeling
Precisely.
bad against each other.
Precisely.
And it's good that you say different communities having their different perspectives, you know, because
Yes.
many times, General, when you talk about ethnic conflict, especially since 2008, we mainly think about post-election violence. The 2007, 2008 post-election violence, the 1992 post-election violence, 97, but it goes beyond these main tribes that we've been talking about, even intra-ethnic violence.
Absolutely, you are very right. Just to cap it all, you said it well, ethnic tension started off with the arrival of the colonials. The colonial people pushed people out of their land, and the colonialists settled on the land, and they alienated the population. That is where land is the bedrock of ethnic tension. Subsequent governments, which came in after independence, did not solve the problem. They didn't sit down and think and look for solutions to these problems. They actually added to the problems. And therefore, land tenure system, alienation of land, is the bedrock of ethnic tension. When you come to the upper eastern and northeastern and other nomadic areas, it is resource conflict, pasture, search for pasture, search for water, search for water view. Added to all that and capped it all is the political, administrative and political boundaries, delineation and delimitation of boundaries, which all add up, and these are all what now exploded into the 2008.
What came out to the fore? You went across the country, you listened to the people, and I'm sure they were telling you all these issues about land, about pasture, about access to resources, and you've brought up a point about the government. Are you saying that the government, like you said, the successive governments failed to do something? Did the governments fail to do it deliberately, or is it that they just didn't actually get to understand what's happening on the ground?
I think the newly independent government of 1963 up to 1978 did not do proper research and solve the land problem. With the British assistance, it was just about who can form land buying companies and who can get resources and who can do this. And all these things added up into the land problem. Really, the land solution, right from the beginning, was not handled properly.
And you see, the government has done a number of things, but it may not have been the right thing that they have done. But every time things happened, they've taken some measures.
Yeah.
But those measures are either temporary or, in fact, the wrong kind of measures. So what, as Commissioner Farah just said, what needs to be done and has now evolved into this until they have appointed even the Commission for Truth and Justice, is that they've come a long way in terms of policy evolution, perception evolution. So they have seen that much more needs to be done in terms of research, in terms of independent body coming and analyzing the situation and making recommendations. And that's why I think the Commission has been established.
Alice, you're an expert in, at the NCIC, you're the expert on ethnic conflict. What do you say about it?
Am I the expert? Maybe one among.
One among.
But I think, as you said, as Commissioner Farah said, this government has missed, not this government, past and present governments have missed various opportunities, not just to deal with the land agenda, but to deal with the issue of inclusion, to deal with the issue of access to equal opportunity, to deal with the issue of access to resources, so that at any one time, communities do not feel that there's a community that has benefited more than the others. So that essentially, if, for example, a Cohesion and Integration Commission was formed in 1963, we wouldn't need a Truth and Justice Commission today. We had another opportunity when the government changed and President Moi took over in 1979. Again, open slate space for bringing in new policies. That one as well, we didn't take it up. Then we had a very big opportunity in 2002 when Kenyans were polled to be the most optimistic people on earth. That was a clean slate in which to write out ways of bringing people together, ways of ensuring that people have equal access, so that then you mitigate the need for conflict. So that didn't happen. So then, having done all that, it's a good thing that this happened through the peace process led by Kofi Annan, the creation of the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, the Constitutional, the Committee of Experts, the Boundaries Commission, all these commissions that were created. And the whole sense was to create them. They were kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. This fits into place, this fits into place, until finally you have the map of Kenya very well done out. So it's a good thing that it's happening now.
Just to add to what Commissioner Say has said for NCIC, theirs is to solve the problem. Ours is to bring it out and tell them. But let me tell you something. Land, for example, from independence was given to institutions without regard to resettlement of the indigenous people. We were in a hearing in Taita Taveta County. They say 68% of the land of Taita Taveta belongs to the Kenya Wildlife Service. And 18% of the land in Taita Taveta County is owned by big landowners. How much is left? 18 plus 68. 68. It's only another 18 or 17 left. And that is where now the little man is farming. ADCs, big institutions, were given huge tracts of land without really due consideration to the resettlement of the original landowners for which they fought for independence. In the Rift Valley, now you saw the clip there, the Rift Valley is the bedrock of the problems of land. Central Province is also overpopulated, and the land is owned by very few people.
So we're saying that land is the main issue. But then we also know that aside from land, there is what the perceptions, like you said, the perceptions that people have about other communities, about what the government has done. For example, you go you talk to a certain person, and they tell you that if this so-and-so is from this tribe, then they expect their behavior to be this way. Do you think that also contributes to that conflict?
There is, I think, one thing that we should also be careful about is, yes, there is this substantive, visible sources of tension. And then there is that perception also. That there's no question about it. But the thing I see as a mitigating factor for future of Kenya is that people are not fighting because they perceive that thing or because it existed. But it always recurs every 5 years when they are being instrumentalized for political purposes.
Right.
When these tensions are deliberately stoked and the fire starts burning. Otherwise, at the level of the population, really, they are ready to work together, to live together, if you just make some arrangements so that some of their questions will be answered.
But these are the same people who they're willing to live together.
Yeah.
But they're the same people who are willing to listen to this politician who comes with a matchstick.
Because
how do you balance
because
that?
The tension was there. And that tension is being manipulated.
Okay. Alice.
And because you link it to the inequalities as well, so that it's so easy to transfer aggression. If you are sitting there and feeling that you have a grudge, it's very easy to then transfer that aggression. And all it needs is somebody who is psychologically smarter than you to come and play on your insecurities,
right.
And then you end up getting violent.
You went across the country. Just,
absolutely. Poverty is a big issue in this country, big class difference, rural poverty, which is manipulated by politicians. That is why maybe after the 2008-2007 election violence, I would say the volcano that erupted is now full of ashes on top. But deep down below, it is still simmering.
It's still there.
Still simmering. We, the leaders of this country, can either bury that volcano or we pour a little bit of fuel on it and it erupts again.
Hold that thought. And when we come back, we are going to look at all these issues. But for now, I'd like us to just look at a clip here that shows what people actually told you on the ground as regards the ethnic conflict.
Throughout its process, the TJRC is expected to pay particular attention to gender-based violations, provide opportunities for people to relate their experiences, and enhance accessibility. During the TJRC public hearings, the Commission listened to witnesses who spoke about various human rights violations. In Kisumu, Bernard Ndege gave a heart-wrenching testimony on how he lost his family of 9 during the post-election violence. He narrated how before the violence erupted, the stock of machetes in local supermarkets was bought, and that despite being alerted of the danger, the police urged them to remain at home and disappeared when the violence broke out.
At about 10 o'clock, they overpowered us. They broke the gate where we were staying and came into the compound where we were staying. I told my family and the other people we were with that we are unlucky today, let us find a way in which we can escape. We ran and entered another house where I was staying. We screamed and wailed, so asking for help. Nobody came near where we were. As we closed the door inside, the Mungiki came and closed the door from outside. They went round the window of the bedroom and broke the window. I heard one telling the other people, give me petrol. They poured petrol in the room, inside the house as we were watching. Then a voice asked for a matchstick. They lit the fire and threw the matchstick inside the house.
By addressing the roots and consequences of historical injustices and gross violations of human rights, the TJRC will contribute towards national harmony, understanding, and healing.
Welcome back to Kenya's Unheard Truth. I'm Eric Latif. Today, we are discussing ethnic conflict in Kenya, as was heard by the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commissioners across the country. I'm joined in the studio by retired Major General Ahmed Farah, a commissioner with the TJRC. Also, Alice Nderito is in the studio, commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and Ethiopian National Ambassador Barhanu Dinka, commissioner with the TJRC. Before we went to the break, we were talking about the ash being on top, but we still have something that can easily explode down there. What would it take to make it just explode?
I think what it takes is for some irresponsible person looking for either political supremacy in that area or something else, making a statement of incitement and trying to manipulate the ignorance of the ordinary Wananchi, and then just forgetting about what is good for the country, what is good for the people, and just trying to achieve a certain objective which may or may not be necessarily good for the country.
But when you went across the country and you spoke to the people, are you saying they actually admitted that it's so easy for them to be manipulated by an external
Absolutely,
force?
absolutely. And Commissioner Ritu is going to tell us the panacea. But on the ground, you can see that the public is really fed up with politicians because madoadoa yote hapa watoke and all the other hate speeches which they have been aggressively pursuing.
Yeah.
If we leave impunity, if we conform to the new constitution, if we obey the laws by the book, I think that thing will simmer down and will die. But if we continue with the old political status quo and old political order and impunity, it will ignite again.
You're in charge. You're supposed to bring us cohesion, Alice. I mean, this sounds like a very uphill task for you. The laws have always been there. We have a new constitution. We've always had a constitution anyway, which abhorred violence of any kind. But yet we had violence. What would it take for you to actually bring about this cohesion now?
You know, the laws have been there, but they've been ignored. If you look at, there was a statement that was made by the former chairman of ECK, Mr. Kivitu. He said during elections that the police treat the electoral code of conduct as if it's not part of the law. They treat it as if they treat electoral-related crimes as if they are okay. So you go and report I was beaten in a campaign and it's not a big issue. So there's a whole new aspect around the way we've been working around this. We've carried out intensive training on the police, even for them to understand hate speech, because we imagine a policeman sitting there and somebody goes and reports hate speech. They experience issues to do with even ethnic stereotyping themselves. They don't know how to deal with it. And they minimize it. They think I have to deal with robberies and murders and you're coming to talk to me about hate speech. So we've carried out intensive training with the police. And, you know, we managed to pull through a peaceful referendum. So for us, that is a very, very big thing. And Kenyans did not quite see the power behind the peaceful referendum. We had a platform called Uyano Platform for Peace, bringing together UNDP and ourselves, and PeaceNet, which brings on board 500 NGOs, and the conflicts, the NSC in the Office of the President. And between us, we were able to conflict map the whole country, which we are doing even now, so that we could be able to pinpoint exactly which area was a hotspot, which area was a warm spot, which area is a cold spot, and which area was moving from one to the other. So we are doing that now, and we will involve the public as we get near to the election, so that the public knows that my home is being called a hotspot and I have to do something. And the reason it's being called a hotspot is because of so-and-so and so-and-so who is saying this and this, so that then they're also able to take up action against those kind of people.
So were there many areas, from your experience in the referendum, were there many areas that were transitioning from being hot to cold or cold to hot to warm?
There was quite a bit. You remember when we came out with the hotspot, when we said the following areas are hotspots, that then we saw members of parliament leading demonstrations to say our area is not a hotspot. And for us, that was very powerful in the sense that once you're told your area is not a hotspot by your member of parliament, even if it was, it completely ceases to be, because it's difficult for somebody else to come and mobilize in that particular area. So they are there. And even as we discuss this, sometimes we keep focusing on the Kenya of the post-election violence, that the Kenya of the North has lots of potential in terms of conflict right now. We've seen quite a bit in Moyale. We've had our hands full dealing with Moyale, dealing with Isiolo, Mandera, and there are many, many, many aspects of the conflict, and it's manifesting itself in many ways. But when there's politics and when there is the fear of exclusion, that then we have very powerful ingredients for conflict. And when I talk about the fear of exclusion, I'm talking about that whole aspect of the new county arrangement, where some communities have now found themselves minorities in a county, and they are worried about exclusion. And they are thinking, what then will happen to us if we go into a new political dispensation, when if we vote ethnically as we are wont to as a nation, that then it means that the senator and the governor and everybody comes from one community. So there's a lot of fear around that, and
there's
that's
actually
a real
a topic on your thematic hearings called ethnic minorities, which we're going to discuss in a future program. But as we are talking about this and the way people are feeling like they're the minorities in a certain county, what exactly do we need to do now before we're going into the election?
We heard it yesterday at the thematic hearing on minorities. And before also in the country, we've heard a lot of it. What they're looking for is really to get their own little constituency or ward or something, which from the legal point of view, from the constitution point of view, may be very difficult to do. But however, there are things that could be done to appease them or to keep them included. One is the CDF, the Equalization Fund, the bursaries. They say they are excluded from all this. And also, if at the county level, for example, the post of councillors and chiefs, some nominated positions are kept for these people, that may be a good idea. But we don't know yet. We're still discussing. We don't know what we could recommend. But I think one has to look at it. Otherwise, these people are locked out permanently.
Completely. Ambassador?
Yes. The Constitution, the new Constitution, I think Section 100, Article 100 of the Constitution, really talks about delineation of boundaries and what have you, constituencies. That 30,000, I think it's 130,000 minimum for a constituency. I think it's the whole population divided by the number of counties.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, the number of constituencies, 280 290. 290 divided by 40-something million comes to about that. Anything less than 130, you can't make for a member of parliament. However, affirmative action can be done by political parties. But then that's a wishful thing, because when you request, I'm sure NCIC will request the political parties affirmative action for minorities. But you see, do you think the politicians will listen to you?
The parties are for big people.
They will not.
They go for the numbers.
So the only other way is what you said, which is now appealing for the CDF, the whatever. But I don't think a political party is willing, because politics is about numbers.
That's right.
And a large party cannot reward a small minority without that minority supporting them. And therefore, it's very, very difficult thing.
It's difficult to work with politicians in that aspect, because really all they want is the numbers that get them in.
Yes.
So what we are doing, one of the things that we've really invested in is the whole aspect of social contracts. So we go down to the ground, and an example would be like in Nakuru, where we have in the Nakuru County a majority of Kikuyus, and the Kalenjins feeling that they'll be left out, the Maasais, the Turkanas, everyone feeling that if really the Kikuyu want to vote in their people, they will do that. And we speak to the communities and we tell them, imagine a Nakuru where you don't vote in these other communities. What then it means to you in terms of peaceful coexistence. You've lived through it, you know what it means, so then it's really, you really must be able to accommodate other people. So we are silently encouraging, like if you're a Kikuyu, you're running for senator or you're running for governor, to have a Kalenjin or a Maasai running mate. And we've done that with quite a lot of success. So now we've drawn up a social contract for the communities to sign on to. Basic social contract that says that we will not kill each other, we will not, the basic things that will not be incited and things like that. Then we're also working on around the same thing with the Gabra and the Borana, so that, and the Gabra and Borana already had the Maikona Declaration, so they're already used to that kind of social contract, where you say that based on our beliefs as a community, we shall not harm each other, we shall not pour blood over electoral processes. So if we get communities to really, really own their peace, then it will be very difficult for somebody else to come in. They'll see the bigger picture, and that's really much of what we're trying to do.
Which is why I'd like to ask you, when you say that you're signing these social contracts, at what level are you signing them? Are you signing them at the down Wanjiko level, or is it the leaders?
There's the Wanjiko level, and then there's the leaders level. And when you talk about leaders, you're not talking about political leaders. We're talking about elders, the elders in the village, the people who will be able to say, so-and-so has come here and spoken to us and said that we should kill each other, but we shall not, because sisi ndio tumebaki na nyinyi. So in that sense, then you'll not. And with the youth as well. So there's a whole component of exchanging of these social contracts and discussing at the lower level in terms of this is what the women want, this is what the youth want, this is what the elders want, and this is what we all want.
But quickly, there are two aspects of this ethnic tension. One is the past, which has been looked at by TJRC. Then there's the future one, which is the counties and all, which is being looked at by NCIC, and they have a bearing to each other. Basically, what it means is that we as Kenyans must learn to live with each other. And by all means, in any place, in any county, there will be a majority and there will be minorities. And therefore, one of the things we had in the Rift Valley is, it's some of the negative ethnicity. Negative ethnicity means these people have come to Rift Valley, we have invited them, they have settled with us, but they don't want to learn our language. They call their farms different names, what have you. Those things are negative, what have you. So NCIC, I think, in the future will go down. In fact, it's good that the counties and the new dispensation has come. It's handy, it's good, and I think it will really go against the negative ethnicity.
My next question, I don't want to ask either of you commissioners from TJRC, because you are preparing your report in which you'll tell us your recommendations based on what you've heard. So I want to ask this question to the NCIC. Do you think it would be fair for TJRC to recommend, for example, some sort of payback system or repayment? That's when you talk about reparation, when you talk about land. The communities came and said our land was taken. How should they handle that in their report?
I'll be preempting them, but I think this wound has to be cleaned. we have to clean this wound. So long as we continue bandaging it without cleaning it, we are not doing anything for this country. So I hope TJRC will have some very serious recommendations in terms of this is what needs to be done to solve the land issues. And we are waiting, we are relying a lot on what comes out of the TJRC as a Cohesion Commission, because beyond the areas I've talked about, there are other areas where there is potential, communities that have lived together and had no issues. Now we have issues with the Tharaka and the Chuka. We have issues with the Taita and the Taveta. We hold meetings with them. They cannot even sit on the same bench because of the numbers issue. We have issues with the KU and the Marakwet. People we never thought would be at par. Now we would have differences, now have issues. So then it's important that that report is very, very, very concise and very, very clear in terms of that this is what we recommend. Yes.
Yeah. In fact, adding to what you said,
as we wind up.
You see, when we're in the field, I just give you an example. The Maasais are claiming up to and including Laikipia. Oh, our land, Laikipia, Nakuru, Naivasha, Gilgil, all these, all the way there. But when you go also to Narok, you find that even amongst themselves, they already had land, but they had what you call grazing area companies, and they're fighting. So there's no point of claim. So as she said, we have to recommend feasible things.
Great.
Feasible solutions.
We hope to see that in your report. Your report is coming out in May. We hope to see, like what she said, a concise and very comprehensive recommendations for this. We need to wind up here. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming for the show today. And thank you also for watching Kenya's Unheard Truth. My name is Eric Latif. Catch you again here next Thursday.